Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul and Screen. On this particular video, we will be continuing the conversation on soul ties. Again, we are utilizing the TV show Tyler Perry's Sistas, and we are discussing the situationship between the characters Zach, Fatima, and Karen, especially focusing on Karen and her actions and how they correlate and are correlate with the soul tie, meaning her actions, for those who do know the show, were strengthened and a little bit harder for her to let go because of the soul tie that she was in this toxic relationship that her and Zach had, and just her not wanting to let go actually increased and strengthened the soul tie, which had her, doing the most, lashing out and things like that. So anyway, to continue on, where we left off last video was when Karen basically goes over to Zach and Fatima's house. They tell her that basically Zach presents to her the arrangement that he told her about in regards to child support, those kind of things. And then she ends up finding out, seeing the engagement ring and finding out that they're engaged. She got completely pissed off, went off on Zach again and stormed out. And so we pick it up the next morning, where basically Zach and Fatima are coming downstairs. Well, Fatima's coming downstairs. Zach's already dressed and he's suited and booted. He looking nice and everything. And Fatima, she comes down and she's like, "Ooh, you look nice," because he's normally just dressed, not in a suit. And this particular time, he's in a suit. And she's like, "Where are you going?" And he tells her, he was like, "I already contacted the attorney. So I'm going to go get these papers drawn up. She said that she can have them ready for me today so I can take them over to Karen's." And so she was like, "Oh, cool." And so she, is like, "Well, did you talk to Heather too?" And he's like, "No, she ain't, talking to me. But anyway, I'm just going to try to get through this situation with Karen first, and we'll worry about that later." And so Fatima's like, "Cool." And he's like, "Wait a minute, hold on. I noticed you wear your ring. You got your ring on," because remember before she wasn't wearing her engagement ring because she didn't want Andy to find out that she was engaged to Zach and then tell Karen. So now that it's out, she's like, "Yeah, I got it on," and he's like, "Ooh, it's blinding me. So they have their little cute moment, she's like, "Yeah, you did good. It's good." And so he's like, "All right." And so he's like, "So does that mean we can start talking about the wedding?" And so she's like, "As soon as you handle your business." He was like, "That's why I'm up. I'm about to, take these papers to Karen, as soon as I hit the attorney's office." And he was like, "You want me to wait for you?" And she's looking at him like, "Why? No?" And he's like, "You don't want me to wait for you?" And she's like, "Why would you wait for me?" He was like, "You just told me that you don't really want, you ain't okay with me going over to her salon, just the other day. And now you telling me to go ahead and go over." And she's like, "You know what, Zach? In all honesty, I'm just, it is what it is. If you're going to do something stupid, you're going to do it either now or you're going to do it then." And he's like, "That's what I've been saying." But let me just put a pin here. I honestly think the difference in this particular moment is that Karen now knows Zach and Fatima are not just going together. In Fatima's mind, she's like, she now knows we're engaged. And that should mean something. You know what I'm saying? And, so she's like, so go ahead. And so he's like, "Cool." And so, he's like, "Yeah, that's cool." So anyway, they have a little moment. They, he kisses her and they leave and go out to, go to work, and picks up at Andy and Fatima's place of employment at the law firm. Basically, Fatima comes in and gives Andy some stuff, and she tries to leave, and Andy's like, hold on, have a seat." And so Fatima was like, "Okay." And so, Andy is always the one who tries to go and bring the personal stuff up, where Fatima is really just trying to keep her out of it as much as possible. Andy always tries to insert, the personal aspect of their friendship, knowing that there's barriers and stuff, but at work. So anyway, she tells Fatima to sit down. And she goes, basically, "You handled yourself well last night. How did you think when things went?" And so Fatima's like, "You know what? Real talk, no matter what, I'm going to be me." So the fact that Karen is tripping out and all that kind of stuff, I'm still Fatima, and so she was like, okay, I get that. And so, because Andy opened the door. So basically, and Fatima goes, well, how did Karen handle that? Like after everything. And then Andy is like, well, Fatima, I don't, kind of like she don't want to say how Karen handling this. And so Fatima was like, oh, well, don't be asking me about my ring and stuff. Like, you the one who opened this door. And so she was like, all right, that's true. And so she goes, well, she's okay. She goes, basically, I think her and Aaron are in a good place. And because of that, I think she's, finally ready to move on. And so Fatima's like, good. So that means they both can leave us the hell alone. And the reason she said both is because Aaron keep tracking Zach down, trying to get him to talk about Karen, and they just trying to live a life. Like Zach and Fatima are trying to move on with each other. Zach ain't really checking on Karen, and that's ticking her off, but Aaron is mad because she ain't really like on him like that. And so he ends up chasing Zach down, looking for Zach, and always want to have these conversations about Karen with Zach, and they don't want no parts of it. They are really just trying to build a life together, moving forward and dealing with the situations that are coming at them and presenting themselves. But other people keep trying to insert their lives into there. So meaning Karen and Aaron, like Aaron don't really have no reason to be talking to Zach and Fatima about Karen at all. Like, but he keeps coming over there. So anyway, Fatima is just like, good. They both can just leave us alone. Like, and so, Andy kind of goes, well, Fatima, I mean, the goal is for everybody to be happy. And so I'm sitting here thinking like, Fatima kind of like, yeah, I guess. And I'm going to say this here. If I was Fatima, like originally starting off, the goal was to be cordial and things like this. At this point, if Karen and Aaron ain't happy, that is not me and Zach's business. You know what I'm saying? Like that might be your goal. My goal is for me and my dude to be happy and for us to move on and for them to leave us alone. So if they happy and they leaving us alone, then check. My goal has been accomplished. I don't know about Karen's, but anyway, and I say that because they all keep trying to make it seem like Karen's happiness is all of their responsibility, and it's definitely not. Now, as her friend, Andy, if that's what you want to do, then God bless you and your entire ministry, right? Like, but that is not as Fatima and Zach's goal. They would like everybody to be great, but because of how all the stuff is going down at this point, they just trying to create a place of stability for them so that they can move on in their life and reach an agreement and co-parent this kid. But Karen's happiness, that was a part of the goal. I don't know that necessarily that's the part anymore because in all honesty, she don't seem like one of them people who kind of want to be happy. She almost comes off across as one of those people who just consistently searches out and seeks drama so that she can always have something to kind of complain about and stuff like that. And that's just my opinion. So anyway, moving on. Basically Andy's like, cool. So she looks at the ring. She's like, let me see the ring. And the fast forward into the day Zach is showing up at Karen's salon, and he is, he has the paperwork, and he's basically like, hey, I text you, and she's like, oh, I text you back, and he's like, I didn't get it. And so she goes, oh, I forgot to send it. And he was like, oh, okay, well, whatever. And then here she go again, trying to bait into, she just always tries to bait and start something. And she was like, what, you think I'm trying to play your game? And he was like, what you talking about? And she was like, that game where you say you text me because you was staying out all night and everything. And he was like, can we not, just do this? Like, and she was like, I'm just saying, like, that's something that you would do, basically. And he was like, fine, I'll admit it. And she was like, thank you. That's the game that you play. And I'm just trying to say, like, every time Zach tries to come at her in a mature fashion and show that he's moving on and he's trying to become a better person, she always bringing up their past relationship. We not together no more. So you can stop bringing up these old things to try to get into an argument. But again, this soul tie still has her in her mind thinking that if I can bait him into an argument, then there's some way, there's some possibility, there's some hope that he coming back to me, because she's still holding that in her head. Now, so he goes, anyway, can I just give you these papers? And she's like, oh, come with me. And so she's like, pointing towards her office. And he's like, well, I don't really need to go in there. I just need to give you these papers. And she's like, Zach, just come on. And he's like, he really don't want to go in there, because remember, he know what happened the last time. Plus he just, him and Fatima in a good space, and he don't want to give no reason for anybody to speculate that they was in there, what they was in there doing, because of how long they may have been in there. But Karen pushes it, and she's just like, no, Zach, just like I said, just come on. So he follows her, and he goes in, and she, they close the door. He hands her the papers, and she's like, give them to me. And she leans over, and she starts to sign them. And he basically is like, wait, do not sign those papers. And she was like, why not? He was like, you got to get Andy to look over them. And I said, like, some people I think have mentioned like why he just didn't let her sign them. But here's the thing. Karen is doing the absolute most, and Zach knows Karen is really moody and things like that. And so he does not want to give any room or for error, right? Like, oh, I didn't even read them, I just signed them. Should, she start tripping out and actually try to take him to court. And then she can be like, you can ask him, I didn't even read him. Like, I just signed them. And if he says, yeah, she just signed them. Now, true enough, you supposed to read your documents, but he also don't know the law. So he don't want to leave no room for error, that this can come back and bite me in the butt because you signed this stuff. You didn't read it. You didn't have an attorney read it. You just signed it without looking. And now you saying that you want more money, or I didn't offer you enough, or all this kind of stuff. So anyway, he stops her. And he was like, and so she was like, fine, I guess I'll get him, looked at. And he's like, yeah, that's all I'm saying. Just do what you got to do. And she was like, all right. And so then she goes, well, anyway, just kind of let you know, I'm starting to feel a little bit better about all of this. Them letters kind of help get me through. And like my mom said, and so I'm finally to the point where I'm ready to just let all this drama go and stuff like that. And he was like, oh, that's good for you. And so she was like, so yeah, I'm basically ready just to, let all this go. And he was like, really? And she's like, yeah. He's like, that's the right attitude. And so she's like, yeah, because ain't no sense of continuing this, like trying us over and over again just ain't working. Now, hear her words, like, this is not working. And so he's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. That's, thank you. Like, really, I just really want to handle this situation like, two adults. Let's just agree to co-parent, should this child be mine, and move on. And so she's like, yeah. And then she pauses, and she's like, well, congratulations. And he's like, for what? And she's like, on your engagement and on fatherhood. And he was like, oh, thanks. And then she's like, Fatima cool. And he was like, what? And so she's like, yeah. And so he's like, hold on. And she's like, what? And he's like, look, I know you said them letters help, but them letters didn't help do that much. Like, overnight, you was just going off on us. And a couple of days ago, you was cussing us out. Like, but basically letting her know that he not about to let her bad talk his woman. So yeah, she's like, well, like I said, she cool. Like, I ain't really trying to start nothing. It's enough, like me and you, we just don't work. So we need to leave it alone. He's like, all right, cool. So they walk out the office, and he comes out, and he's like, hey, didn't nobody do nothing in there? And so everybody looking at him. And then Karen stops him in the middle of the salon, and she's like, hey. And he's like, what's up? And so she reaches her arm out, and she's like, give me a hug. And he's like, what? And she's like, just, give me a hug. And so he walks over, and he gives her a hug, and she kisses him on the cheek. And he thinks there's something off about it, because he's just like in the episode, he literally pauses and shakes his head afterwards. And is kind of like, well, all right, maybe this is, something cool. So he leaves. So you fast forward into the day a little bit more. Angela is coming into Fatima's office. Fatima is at work, and she comes up to Fatima, and she's like, hey. And she's like, hey, what's up, girl? And she's like, hey, so you and Zach still together, right? Like, y'all good? Like, and so Fatima looking at her like, yeah, we good. Like, what you mean? And so she's like, well, I hate to bring this up, but and so she shows her this picture that somebody apparently in the salon took and sent to Angela. And it was a picture of Karen hugging Zach and kissing him, but you can't tell that she's kissing him on the cheek because of the angle that the person took the picture. And so, of course, Fatima is looking at it because Angela's like, it's like they kissing. And so Fatima is like heated, like, what the F, And so she, is like really like tripping. Like, so Angela and her talking, and she's like, send me this picture. And she's like, is that him? And she's like, well, who sent you that picture anyway? And she was like, a friend of mine. And she's like, well, what's she like? Is she like trustworthy? And she's like, well, like, why would she? I'm just trying to figure out why she would send you this picture of Zach and Karen. Like, why would she even take a picture, in there? She basically just trying to figure out, is the chick messy? And so Angela's like, Fatima, like, basically, what difference does that make? Like, shouldn't you be worried about the fact that he kissing her? And so Fatima is just like, well, I got that. Like, I'm worried about that, but I'm just trying to figure out why somebody would send you that picture. And she was like, she just know that I know you. She happened to be getting her hair done. She knows I know you, and she knows that that's your dude. And so she sent it to me. And so Fatima, of course, is like, got you. And she's like, well, Angela, now she's trying to, sort things out. Well, maybe it's like a twin. And so she's like, a twin. And she's like, I'm just saying, but maybe it's an old picture. And she's like, it ain't an old picture. Zach had that outfit on today. And he didn't have no the money in the past to have no outfit like that. So this is definitely him. And so she's like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. Now, so Fatima is like upset and frazzled the rest of the day. So Andy comes in and she notices Fatima's off. And so she's like, what's going on, Fatima? So Fatima shows her, and she's like, before she shows, she's like, Andy, if I show you this, you can't say nothing to Karen. And she's like, oh my goodness, okay. And she's like, Andy, either yay or nay. So she goes, okay. So she shows her the pictures, and she's like, okay. And she's like, okay, like, do you see this picture? And she's like, well, maybe it's an old picture. She goes, it's not an old picture. And she goes, okay, well, did you call him and talk to him? She goes, no, I haven't. And I'm not, because I want him to tell me about it. And she's like, Fatima, I think you should just, wait and see, like, just call him. And she goes, I actually don't want to call him because I want to look him in his eyes and see, what he tells me, so I can know if he's telling the truth. So she's just all flustered. She's like, I tell you what, Fatima, just leave. Just go home because you already frazzled. Go home and talk to your man. So Fatima go ahead and she leaves, and she gets to the house, and Zach is in the house, and he's like, yo, what you doing home? I wasn't expecting you. And she's like, And so he comes over, and she walks over to him in the kitchen, and he was like, telling her kind of what happened through the day. And she's like, okay, really? But he realized, she a little standoffish, like, what? Because, she's like, he's like, oh, well, I handled my business today. I took the paperwork over to Karen. She was going to sign them, but I wouldn't let her. And so Fatima's like, why not? And he was like, because we need to make sure that the attorney signed. And she was like, oh, okay. And so he was like, you all right? And she's like, yeah, it's just been a long day. And so Fatima is trying to see if he's going to say something to her about it. And so, so she finally, he's like noticing something is off. He tries to kiss her, and she moves her cheek. She moves because like everybody know that Fatima will absolutely curb Zach on a kiss if she is like, pissed at him. So he tried to kiss her on the lips, and she moved, and like he ended up at her cheek. And so he was like, what's going on? And she was like, nothing. And so let me put a pin here, because there are people who are out there, other, content creators who are saying like, they really didn't like how Fatima handled any of this and all that kind of stuff. And I think somebody even mentioned like they just really didn't like Fatima in this season. And, to each his own. I'm going to say really honestly, I do think she should have just came forth and said something. But here's the other thing. I think everybody else is expecting Fatima to always like have this composure about herself, when you guys forget that these things are happening within days apart. At a certain point, her and Zach are going to have some emotional outbursts as well. Why? Because this is not just affecting Karen, this is affecting them. And so this is not to to say that she was fine to go at him that way, but she still should have came out and said it, but she didn't. But she still wasn't very disrespectful. She just was waiting to see if he's gonna say something. So yeah, she had an attitude. But finally, when he's like, "What's going on?" she showed him the picture, and she's like, "What the F is this?" And he's like, "What?" And so it's a picture of Karen, right? And so she's like, "What are you looking at the picture?" He's like, "What? Yeah, like so what?" And he's like, she was like, "Do you see the picture?" And he was like, "Yeah, like what? I didn't kiss her." And she was like, "Oh, you didn't?" And he's like, "Nah." He was like, "I hugged her." And she was like, "You hugged her?" And he was like, "Wait, hold on. I didn't hug her. She hugged me and she kissed me on the cheek." Like, and so she's like, "Really?" And so he's like, "Yeah." And so basically they get into it, right? And she's just trying to get some understanding. But Zach pausing, he realizes, remember, he knew something was off when he was leaving, because he shook his head like, this is weird for her to do. And he goes, "You know what? She did this stuff on purpose." And so Fatima's like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, she had somebody in there taking a picture so that she could send it to you to cause this stuff. And so Fatima's like, "Zach, no, she didn't." He's like, "Yes, she did." And so she was like, "Zach." And so he elevates his voice first. So here's the thing. Fatima typically usually tells him to lower his tone, you know what I'm saying? And so she did, she's like, bring it down. And so he's like, "How you gonna tell me to calm down and you putting a picture in my effing face?" And so she's like, first of all, like basically like, who you talking to? You know what I mean? So then they get into it, you know what I'm saying? So he's like, I'm not about to do this with you. And she's just like, "Zach." And so she grabs his arm and she's like, he's like, "Fatima, let me go." Now, at this point, of course, they both are yelling because he elevated his voice and she told him to bring it down and he started yelling. He got even more upset. Now, here's the other thing. Zach should not be yelling at Fatima, because she came at him with an attitude, but she did not raise her voice. They were having a conversation and it was a tense conversation, but he elevated the voice first. She tried to bring him down. And because he's now in his emotion, because he realizes what happened, he believes Karen, had somebody set him up. And he's over it. Again, they just went through a couple of days of incidences where Karen is popping up at their house, cussing them out. So again, their emotions are kind of at a peak too. You know what I'm saying? Like he's full too. Like, enough is enough. You start pouring water into a cup at a certain point, it's gonna flow. It's gonna overflow. And that's where Zach and Fatima are at this point. So they are like, his emotions are high, so he's yelling. And so she grabs him and she's like, "Where you going?" He was like, "I'm about to go handle this," basically. And she's like, "Zach, I told you she didn't do that." And he like, "How you know?" And so they get into it. And he's like, "Fatima, let me go." And she's like, "No, I'm not letting go of you. We need to talk about this." And he's like, "Fatima." And then he calms himself. He tries to catch his composure because he realizes he's like ready to snap, because guess what? This is what him and Karen does. So he's realizing this ain't what me and you do, but I'm sick of this. And so he tells her, he's like, "Fatima, let me go." And she's like, "I'm not letting you go." And he's like, "Remember when we was in the gym and you asked me to let you go, because if you didn't, you was going to snap? I'm telling you to have the same amount of respect for me in that." Let me put a pause here, because I didn't go over that part in the video in my review of that part of the season. So let me go back a little bit. So prior to them going over to Karen's house to have the letter reading, there was an incident where Zach and Fatima were exercising. I don't think I brought this up or not, but anyway, let me just do a little quick recap on that. They were exercising and working out in the gym, and Aaron walks up. And he's trying to come and tell Zach that, he want to talk to him, because he think that him and Zach need to keep, maybe stop stressing Karen out. So Zach tells him, "I ain't stressing her out. Like, she literally just came over to my house and cussed me out, cussed my girl out, coming to my house, calling me and all that kind of stuff. So I ain't doing nothing to stress her out. So you could go ahead and go." So they get into it a little bit, and then Aaron finally leaves, and he turns to Fatima. He's like, "You believe this dude?" And Fatima is like pissed, because she's like, "Why you keep getting so hot whenever this woman's name pop up? Like, I'm gonna ask you this one more time. Do you want to be with her?" And he's like, "Fatima, I told you I don't want to be with her." So they start literally kind of arguing, because she's telling him this is triggering her. And this is what happened in her last relationship, and this is very similar. And so he's like, but I ain't him, so quit bringing me up, quit bringing this up like I'm trying to do something to hurt you, like I'm not him. And she's like, but this is making me feel the same. And so they argue, and they are actually arguing in the gym. But so they get into it, and because he's triggered now, right? Because they're arguing, and this is really not Zach and Fatima's dynamic. He ends up calling her Karen, and of course that sends her sailing, right? So she like, what the F did you call me? And so he's like, Fatima. And so she's like, you know what? I better just go. And she gets ready to storm off, and he grabs her arm, and he's like, no, we need to talk about this. And so she's like, Zach, I'm telling you right now, if you don't let me go, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you, because I can feel like my this rising, and I'm about to set this mother effer off if you don't let me go. And so he's like, I don't care. And she's like, Zach, I'm telling you. So he finally lets her go. So he is bringing that moment up to her when you get back to the episode where we are now, and he's telling her he about to go and talk to Karen, and Fatima grabs his arm. He's reminding her, that's how hot I am. Remember how hot you was? That's where I'm at right now, and I need you to let me go and have that same level of respect to that I have for you, to let you go so that you can calm down. I need you to respect me that same way. So she lets him go, and he storms out, and he is heated. So he is going, and he is looking for Karen at this point, and he's just going around looking for Karen. He gets to the salon. She's not there. So he calls and finds out that she had just she's at dinner. So he calls her. He's like, where you at? She's like, I'm at dinner. What you want? And he's like, basically, where you at? And so she tells him, and he's like, stay there, because he don't want to have no phone conversation at this point. He want to talk to her face to face, because he is still pissed, because he's just really tired of, just her and interfering with his relationship. And you just told me that you was good, but now it looked like you over here trying to sabotage my relationship. So he goes and he's looking for her. When he gets to the restaurant, he finds her, and he goes up to her, and he is like pissed, right? And he's like, basically, he was like, did you have somebody take a picture of me and you hugging and send it to Fatima? Now hear me. He got an attitude too, but he did not initially yell at her at first. He just came to her, but he had attitude. And so I'm not saying that he's not wrong for how he came to her, because he should have came up a little bit more composed. But again, he's done. He's tired. His again, the cup is running over. He is done with this. So he goes to her, and he asked her straight out, did you have somebody take a picture of you hugging me and kissing me on the cheek and send it to Fatima? And she's like, Zach, what are you talking about? And so he's like, he's mad, right? Because I just said this clear and calm to you, and you trying to act like you don't know what I'm talking about. And again, he believes that she set it up. So he hits the table, and he's like, and he says it again, but this time he's elevating his voice. And so Aaron is like, Zach, man, you need to calm down. And he turns to Aaron, and he like, I ain't talking to you. So again, like, you need to leave me alone. This is between me and her. And so he talks, and he asks her again, did you? And she's like, Zach, I don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I came over there to be nice. I'm trying to be cool with you. I'm trying to, put a plan in place and do the mature thing, so that if this baby is mine, so he's trying to do that. He's like, but you, and she's like, you know what? I ain't doing this with you. And he was like, no, you effing with my life. Like, he's literally telling her, like, you are trying to come between me and my life. This is now a woman that I want to marry. I'm not talking about just some chick that I'm dating. I want to marry this woman. And this is looking like something that you would do. And so he asked her, so, he's going off, and he's yelling all this. Now he is yelling at this point. And so she's like, you know what? I'm not doing this with you. So she gets and she goes, I'm leaving. And he grabs her arm, and he goes, you're not going nowhere. And that is, of course, Aaron, trying to stand his ground and show Karen that he can be the man that she needs him to be. He stands up, and he's like, man, don't grab her like that. So he grabs Zach, and they get into it. And I'm going to end this episode here and ask just the questions like I normally do. So first of all, what do you think about this whole situation of how Fatima came at Zach, how Zach came at Karen? Were they in the wrong or what? Like, because in all honesty, I feel like this was coming and this is like their turn to explode, and it doesn't necessarily give them right to talk to Karen that way. But I'm just saying temperatures are rising at this point, and it's not just Karen now, it's boiling over into Zach and Fatima. So tell me what you think. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. We'll pick up at the nice brawl. All right then, bye.